Thanks for joining us. So, first and foremost, I just want to say a big thank you to the European Foodservice Summit for such a great event and giving us the opportunity to speak. For those of you that haven't attended, I highly recommend it. Anyway, let's get into this recording. What I want to explore today is how design becomes your accent in unfamiliar markets. It's how you're understood or misunderstood before a single word is spoken. Now, rather than talk about my successes, which I'm sure I could bore you all to death with, what I wanted to share with you was my biggest failure. Why? Because if we're going to speak about trust, I feel like that's a good place to start. A few years ago, while I was working for my previous agency, a US brand came to us looking to expand into the UK. I confidently, perhaps a little bit overcockily, predicted that it would fail. It didn't. It became a massive success. In fact, it just didn't just become a success, it smashed records and turns the whole sector on its head. Now, I'll let you guess amongst yourselves for a while who that was, and we can keep moving forwards. Now, why am I opening on this? Because that was a turning point, and I realized that design isn't just a visual tool, it's a commercial one. It impacts how fast a market adapts to you, how much people spend, and ultimately how profitable your business becomes. Design and commercial cannot be viewed separately. They are intertwined. One success is rooted in the others. Expanding globally sounds simple. Take what works and scale it. But in reality, it's messy. Brands either overstandardize and lose local traction, or overadapt and dilute equity. I spend roughly 30% of my time in Vietnam, and this country is littered with big brands that have failed to enter the market successfully. Now, I'm sure you're thinking Asian market, communist market, emerging market, and you'd be right. It's true, Vietnam is a rough place to come in. But what it does do is accentuate the problems that everybody else has going into global markets. So let's move closer to home. Starbucks have managed to balance this. Despite recent headlines, you'd be hard pressed to argue against their global success and market dominance. Now, we've all seen these beautiful flagship reserves in high profile locations around the world, but they haven't always hit the mark. In the 2000s, they entered the Australian market, opening 87 stores in just 8 years. However, by the end of 2008, Starbucks decided to close 61 of their stores. Now, those of you in the know this was a period when Starbucks was shrinking, but this market was hit particularly heavy. This was a classic example. Starbucks misread the room in Australia. What worked in Seattle didn't work in Sydney. Now, not because of the coffee, but it was because the brand felt foreign. The market didn't see the value in the product, and as a result, it didn't trust them. And here's the commercial reality. The longer it takes for your customers to trust your brand, the longer it takes to hit EBITDA targets in a new market. Design without cultural context is just decoration. Design isn't just how it looks, it's how fast people understand what you do. Things you need to be asking before you even start designing are, do I need bigger tables? What dwell time am I looking at? How do people use our competitors? And does Vietnam really need another faux restaurant? Does Texas want vegan food? In cross border contexts, design needs to compress years of brand building into weeks. The framework needed to build equity needs to be strategic, not just creative. Step one is to anchor the brand with things that clearly define who you are. Now, lessons can be taken from recent brand refreshes that have hit the headlines. Think Jaguar and Tropicana. Adapt to the market, cultural and commercially. We've just spent the last 6 months reverse engineering drive-throughs for motorbikes to suit Asian markets. Finally, remember, design decisions are P&L decisions. Drive-through is a cultural necessity in the US. but think about how that format will affect your brand and your financial models. These things need to be considered. Think about also how it's going to affect your menu and whether it's right for you. When space shrinks, trust has to scale. Good design fills this gap. Through building market trust, we've seen ticket value increase by 11%. By designing clear customer journeys and tailored market experiences, our stores have reached EBITDA positive 3 months faster than forecast. The layout, the lighting, even the seating density, every choice was commercially, intentionally, and tailored to the market. Now, for those of you that hadn't guessed who I was speaking about at the beginning, small burger chain you may have heard of. Wow, did I get that one wrong? Well, what I learned in the most humbling of ways is that when a brand expands globally, it's not just opening a new store, it's building a new profit center. And the way you design that space visually, culturally, and operationally to a new market can either drag or accelerate your EBITDA. Design, when done right, becomes a fast track to trust, and as a result, returns.